Peace, cuz.
Peace, cuz. What's going on, man?
Chillin'. Yo, just sent you the link. Go on your phone. I couldn't send you a direct link because I'm still figuring all this out. So if you could just type that into your
StreamYard. All right. So, is there a background in StreamYard? Can they blare my background in my basement?
Yeah, I think they can do all that. Yeah.
All right, one second. Let me hit this right here where I got you with me. How's your day going, cuz?
Going good, bro. Can't, you know what I mean? I'm actually out here in Philly with my son. Came to spend some time with him. He just got a new crib. So I'm chilling with him right now, you know.
Right.
Good time.
Give my regards to him, man. I'm looking forward to meeting him sometime in the near future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Primo's gonna be up here next week.
Okay. Okay, so we gotta yeah, I'm gonna be with him.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Oh yeah, you know that. Oh yeah.
Are y'all bringing your own smoke? You're gonna need some when y'all get here.
Oh yeah. You know, we get it in. How? You know what I'm saying?
All right. I got you. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm entering the broadcast studio. Let's save this one. Yeah. Allow mic can. Okay. Settings. Mic's working. Virtual background. There we go. Let's try. And I'm gonna put this wall behind me because this is where all this nonsense ends tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Right? True HAWKS.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in.
Okay. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not worried about that. You hear me, cuz?
Yep, you can hear me?
Yes, sir. All right. Good to have you.
Likewise,
so, yeah,
good to be here.
I'm gonna go live on Instagram as well.
Sounds smooth.
Right. Huh?
I said sounds smooth.
Yeah. We're gonna get into it. You know, it ain't really got no grand introductions, nothing big, you know what I mean? Just getting started right now. You know, this is like, you know, we testing the waters. It's the pilot episodes type shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm honored to be a part of the pilot, cuz.
Yeah. We working towards something great. You know, we're gonna make Turtle Island great again. But really, you know, okay, so let me see. It's already okay. There's a few people up in here. 17 heads.
What's the link to send it out? Right at the top.
Yeah, it should be at the top. Yeah.
StreamYard.com/7. All that joint.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Oh, hold on, share.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's not it. It's on YouTube too, right?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Let me hit YouTube.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the YouTube link on my Facebook.
What's it? Hold on. TurtleGang.NYC, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. 8 watching. I found it right here. Turtle. Easy. I'm gonna toss this right here into the Facebook. To the Facebook. Let me throw it in my little tribal group in case any of them wanna check it out.
So yeah, so really, you know, okay, so it sets up like, you know, we about to drag people and get into all the low energy shit. You know what I'm saying? But truthfully, like, I want to be able to build and discuss like what is the real problem? Because like you know myself are out here doing anything negative to impact the culture, to lead people astray. So what is the problem that people have with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is really going on? Like, me and my wife used to talk about something. The problem ain't the problem. So what's the problem? Like, a lot of times people act like they don't like you or this and that, but it's other real issues. So, you know, I'm trying to figure out what is the real issue with people, because it's people that have a problem with me and they never even met me, not in the flesh. And I know people put a lot of you know, they put, like, this internet thing really got people feeling like they really know each other, but you don't know somebody till you can get around their energy. You know what I'm saying? So I've made a lot of great friends, a lot of great acquaintances via social media. But until we connect and the energy gets felt and all that, you know, we just that. You know what I'm saying? So respectfully, you know what I mean? So a lot of people have drawn opinions about both of us, haven't even had the opportunity to really get to know us. So I'm not here to lay everything out. I'm not here to do none of that. I'm not here to plead for anybody to like us. I'm just here to kind of like, let's have this conversation about what the problem really is. You know what I'm saying? Without any antagonism and any of that stuff.
Well, let me just put it like this, because don't like us. It don't change nothing going on and nothing we got doing. And that's the thing. We're not here on social media sharing our culture and our history to be liked, to be popular, to get people to follow us. I could care less. I share my history because I'm proud to share it. Because our people say, Aniski Tumpawag, we are still here because I know what happened to us. And if you ask me, because I love that saying, what's the problem? Because the problem ain't the problem, right? Because it ain't, you know, I just spent today just because, you know, wanting to see, get a little feel for the convo tonight, just responding to outrageous claims about me and my people. So I'm like, so you're not informed properly. So it's not that, you know, the information I'm presenting is wrong and you're getting angry and that's why. So it's not that. I'm telling you what it is and you're still mad and you're still trying to come at me. So this is what I think it is, cousin. I'll say it respectfully, but this is honestly what I think it is. I think you have individuals who are seeking for some sort of recognition on whatever level that is. You know, you feel oppressed, you feel marginalized, you feel like you're stepped on. And I know that because we come from the cities. We come from that experience, the Black experience. We're in a community center in the neighborhood where I grew up at for 9.5 years. One of my peoples got shot half a block up while I was at work. I heard the gunshots, saw the car go down the street. My associate director at the time was the one who ran over to check on him, called the cops. You know, so we've been around all that. So all of this, all of that, I'm like, what's the issue? And it's this seeking for recognition based upon what happened, and then coming into a bit of knowledge.
Absolutely.
And then being so empowered by that bit of knowledge that you become arrogant with it and assume that what you know is all there is to know. So now you're going to come at people like that. And then, because you're already arrogant, you're not coming in a humble way. When you get corrected, you can't now say, you know what, you're right. I was wrong. Thank you for correcting me. You can't, because of the energy that you came with. So now you got to double down. And that's what we run into, cuz a bunch of doubling down on stupidity. And I think what happens to them is their ego gets checked when they run into us. And then when they try to go the other route, that ain't moving nothing with us. That's why I got this wall behind me. Nah, that stops right here, bro. And I don't know if you saw me today. I asked you, well, when you coming up here to Rhode Island to make me stop doing what I'm doing? When you coming up here? So they get that energy back from us as well. So you don't know more than us. You can't scare us. So what else can you do? Well, run like so and apologize for the language. And once again, respectfully, run like some hoes to the internet to start talking about us.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's all that's going on. So I don't respect no one on that time. And here's my thing. We come from the culture, cuz, and this is the difference. we not sharing what we read from what Europeans wrote. That's not where our source comes from. You share what elders passed down to you. How do I know that? Because I know your elders and your chiefs.
Yeah,
and when you
that's
talk
what they're gonna get.
Thank you. When you talked about, yeah, it's cool on the internet, but it's not real till we get in each other's presence and feel that energy. Me and my people came up to your people's powwow to drum, and we made that connection there.
Absolutely.
And right there, from that point, it's like, it's real. Turtles, it's real. There's nothing else to say anymore. So now that's how we've been moving ever since. They don't got that. They didn't have no elders teach them nothing. They didn't sit underneath no chiefs. They ain't been in ceremony. They ain't been at the powwows. They ain't got yelled at by the elders because they're not doing something right. They ain't had that experience. And the thing is, instead of them being humble and saying, hey, can y'all show me or direct me on how I can engage that way too? Well, my grandmother told me, and I'm like, yo, I don't care. I don't care what no one told you, because it ain't traditional. It ain't the way things go. It ain't how things are supposed to be done. And that's where this Aboriginal quote unquote community issues at. Traditionally, we don't got communities. We got clans and tribes. Family and tribe. The community traditionally was the ones from the family who couldn't get along with the rest of the family. So you off on your own, off in the wilderness, and you linking up with other people who can't get along with their family, and you creating your little band. So now we got to watch out for your band. Even though you're part of our family and our tribe, we got to watch out for you now in the band, because you're around a bunch of misfits who don't get along with their own families and tribes. That's why they're off altogether. And what's going on with this community, cuz? Because I always ask them, why you not with your family? Where's your family at? Why you's all together, but you's ain't related? What's help me out here? Why your uncle or your auntie ain't with, like, what's going on? And well, if you're not with your family, why would I want to link my family up with you?
Their common ancestry is Google. That's their common ancestors. And that's what allows these people to...
And hear me. American. They're Americans.
And they're Americans.
Yeah. That's it. And I just got into someone today, and let's clear this up. American don't mean the original copper-colored people in Webster's dictionary. It means descendants of Europeans. It said originally. But then there's two words. But now. But now means now. It means now. It describes descendants of Europeans. So all these, I'm a real American. I'm the copper colored. You're an American. That's it. You're a descendant of a European. That's how I view you. You don't speak no other language. You don't know no other culture. You don't you self-appoint yourself into positions of leadership. You disrespect other people who try to teach you the right way. And then you go around bad-mouthing people. What's more American than that? What's more American than that? Because I know that ain't a Narragansett thing. I know that ain't a Lenape thing. So where's that come from? American colonization. Let me stop there, cuz, because I'll go off.
You know, I was talking to some people the other day on a live stream, and I was telling them about the term American. You know, everybody want to chop it up and be like, oh, we're Amaru Khan, merit, you know, all these different terms, and that's cool. You know, I remember when there was a time when I was leaning on that. You know what I mean? I remember coming through them chambers. You know what I'm saying? I didn't hang my hat there. I didn't, you know, this is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, we've always had our history, so red flags, you know what I'm saying, were a little bit more obvious to us than other people. You know what I mean? Things that look good, sound good, but, you know, once you start getting into the meat and, you know, potatoes of it, it don't really taste that good because it's not right for you. So when we start looking into these terms, and I looked into the term Amaru Khan, and Amerigo Vespucci and all that, and that's all the low-hanging fruit that is very easy to associate these terms with identity. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Amerigo Vespucci, the name is similar, all this other stuff. But what I found when I actually did the research is that Amaru is a deity, right? The feathered serpent, right? And the mountain range in which that deity is associated with, they refer to as the Amaru Ka.
Thank you.
Just that
Nothing
mountain.
to do it up here.
And it had nothing to do with what was going on in North America. Now, when you juxtapose that information to the German map makers who made the first map, right? And these people didn't even have a personal encounter with Amerigo Vespucci, but because they were utilizing his information, they tried to honor him. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with the similarities in the name. But Amerigo Vespucci didn't even say, name this land after me, if that be the case. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a mixture of an indigenous term that did not mean the entire body of land, North, South, Central America, right? Now, when you come up to modern terms, the term American was something that the Europeans, when they were, you know, during the Revolutionary War, when they wanted to declare a new identity, they no longer wanted to be British, Dutch, so on and so forth. They created an identity called American, right? And through places like Tammany Hall, right, which took place up here in New York. They also got a Tammany Hall down in Louisiana. This is where these people would go to learn the rites of passage on how to survive here in our territory. Basically, they would learn Indian culture. And once they went through those rites of passage, they could now call themselves Americans. So even the term American originally was not the term that, like, this dictionary is telling you it's a term referencing the copper tone people.
Like in 1828.
Yeah, that's like, these are like, I got a whole nother thing. I got to pull the link up, but it talks about fallacies. You know what I mean? And it talks about how people try to tie themselves to linguistic definitions, but languages are evolving and always, you know what I mean, changing and morphing. That's why even we speak in a slang where a word what it really means in its actual origin is not how we use it now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, the colloquial term. So a lot of the words that people are trying to marry themselves to, right, and use as proof of what they claim, these are all English words.
Yep.
They're not even indigenous words.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When you talk about American, indigenous, autochthonous, all these terms that people are identifying themselves with are still European terms.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That you're not identifying yourself with your actual ancestors. Yeah, it doesn't point to a specific origin. So now, when you want to be the vanguard of movements, right, and you're limited by your expression, by your even being able to claim your proper identity, you know what I mean? You need to take a step back and possibly do more research before you jump out here trying to be a leader.
Absolutely.
In a movement that is desperate for actual leadership. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like, I just feel like, I don't want to get caught up in too much of these, you know what I mean? I don't want to get caught up in too much of this, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, no, we see, Indian is from India, like that. Let me,
like, you know, let's just, because he's there, let's just address it. No, sir. Yeah. Indian is a legal term. I'm graduating law school May 20th. I got an A in federal Indian law and then an A in tribal constitutions. Indian is a legal term that means the aboriginal inhabitants of what we now call America. So all of that I don't, you know, now, even the language you're speaking, we don't speak nothing. I speak Nanhignuk. That's not Latin. It is a dialect of Massachusetts, which is a dialect of Algonquian, which is originating from the Lenni Lenape people. So all of this stuff that you're posting here has nothing to do with us, and this is the problem. When you attach, like you said, when you attach yourself to something that sounds right to you without properly researching and seeing what it actually comes from, you make ridiculous comments like this. Now listen to this. Two ups, no such thing as them language. Cause just 1 second. Aquani, nitampag, kana tawamag, skata squamps and nutuis nisu wushuwanag. Tomashipag na higanset. Wuni mosquito ka aquani. What do you mean there's no language? What am I speaking then, Mr. Morris Roots? And this is the problem. If the only basis you have for indigenous heritage or understanding is European sources, then you have more to learn. And that's just across the board. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you descend from. And what I was explaining to someone earlier, cousin, I think this is really what we're getting at. Once you get past the knowledge, the historical knowledge, right? The stuff you can research on your own and find out and dig up. And, you now have to move into the cultural understanding and knowledge. And that only can be passed on properly by someone who lives and practices it. And they don't have to pass it on to you. And that's the problem right there. When a lot of these individuals who may legitimately, and that's why I'm saying, because, it's not an attack upon anyone. And I want to put that out there. I'm glad you laid that out in the beginning. This isn't an attack upon anyone. We're not walking around like we better than anyone or y'all are lower than us. We're saying that if reconnecting with your roots and wanting to be a part of your culture, be respected for who you are is what your goal is genuinely, then a lot of y'all are going about it the completely wrong way. And cultural knowledge, it has to be passed on from someone who's living, practicing it, and who has enough respect for you to give it to you. Now, I had the opportunity, was very honored to learn from your chief, may he rest in peace, Two Bears Ross, to sit with him, pick his brain. I had that in person, like you said, cuz not over the internet, sit down when he came up to our powwow up here. So I learned things directly from Two Bears Ross. You learn things directly from Two Bears Ross. That chief's no longer here. That means there's no more opportunity to learn things from Two Bears Ross, which means anyone out here, yeah, you can go and read about people who met Two Bears and what, but if you don't go talk, engage with those, you ain't getting it. You're not getting it. You have to go and be a part of the culture. You have to go and sit at elders' feet. You have to go and, be around them for a while because they might not tell you nothing when you get there. And so what? You got to go back again. But there's norms, traditions, ways to go about doing stuff that have been going on for thousands of years. So to the Aboriginal community out there, you don't have any right to do things your own way. You don't have any right to change it because we're here now, because you got misclassified, because they took you. You don't, so what? Respectfully, so what? We all went through that. So what that happened? If you're not talking to Europeans, if you're talking to other Indians, so what? So what? We all been colonized. The question is, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about your culture? What are you doing about your lands? What are you doing to build your quote unquote community back up, which should be your family and your tribe? What are you doing in those regards? And if you're not doing anything, if all you're doing is on the internet trying to get followings, if you're lying to people like Dane Calloway is about there being no African slaves brought here, then you're a problem. I don't care how much information you gave. I don't care how many people you put onto stuff. If you're not telling the full and whole truth, you're a problem. You're a problem. And Dane's a problem. That's why Dane's a problem. Not because Dane started a conversation and now we're jealous that Dane's getting thousands of people following him. I could care less. And actually, for those who woke up to a bit of this knowledge because of what Dane shared, then respect to Dane. But beyond that, when Dane starts lying and saying there was no Underground Railroad, but your family was a part of it. When Dane starts saying there were no African slaves brought here, when that's the justification why the state of Rhode Island used to detribalize my people, now Dane's being insulting. Because Dane's spreading false truth about us, about people who are actually living today. I'm not in a book. You can read about my people in the book, but we're here today. all those pictures the people flash around of our ancestors online, and hello, they're our ancestors, which means they're here. That's my great-great-grandfather. I'm here. Instead of flashing a picture of my uncle around, why you ain't reaching out to see how you can help the tribe if if it's that real for you?
That's exactly the issue I have, is that so this whole movement probably has become popular within the last 5 to 10 years, like to where people are really aggressively wanting to identify themselves as, you know, whatever term they want to use. You know what I mean? So people have been raised up by conversations that have been taking place, right? Events that have been taking place right before people's eyes, you know what I mean? And a lot of these conversations planted seeds in the minds of the people who seem to be at the forefronts of these conversations now, right? But we're talking about people who are just a little bit more aggressively promoting their stuff, had other agendas, and that's the world we live in, you know what I mean? So if you can promote your stuff better, your message is going to travel farther. If you can figure out the algorithms and these things, so you're going to see a lot of people coming from the music, right? Like people who at once were doing music and were trying to be this and trying to be that, they now move into this educational space, and they're able to promote because they're using the same tactics and tools that they used when they were promoting their gangster music, because it's a trend for them. So if you can be at the forefront of a trend, if you have the tools to navigate the trends, that's more important than having knowledge of the trend itself, because you can gain a quick knowledge of the trend and then get right into the conversation.
Absolutely.
So we have people who have benefited from that. And what they're doing is they're taking the attention away from people who actually could do something for somebody. Now, what I'm saying is we have people looking at certain individuals as leaders in these Aboriginal movements, right? But those individuals those people have yet to do anything for their own people. So you got 50, 60,000, 100,000 online followers, but you can't get 10 people from your own family to come together and create something, at least demonstrate for others, right? So now you have somebody such as yourself who was able to organize his family, reorganize his tribe, and lay a blueprint, right? And not enough attention is being directed towards individuals like yourself, individuals like what Chief Man is doing, you know what I mean? Individuals like what our good sister Shanae is doing, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are people that are out here really doing work, and these are the people that should be supported, right? So everybody wants to gather and come together, and they want to help people who really have nothing in place. There are there's still nations that are still dug in, that are still in place, that are still living as close to the culture as they can, because we all suffered from colonization, right? But there are nations all up and down the eastern corridor, the southeast, the west, and they're getting it in. Why aren't y'all humbling yourselves and going and sitting before these people and trying to assist them? Because they're already there. They already got the ears of not just the public, they have the ears of the institutions that can now participate to help us make a change.
Because I don't know how to say it better than that. And this is what I'm saying. Like, it has to be, for you to be in another people's land, to co-opt their history, their heritage, their experience, tie yourself to it, and then go right around them and try to get benefits for yourself. It's madness. It's absolute madness. And like, I fail to see a lot of times the logic in it. So I start to think that for many of them, it's malicious. And that's where I get concerned at, because, you know, if if it's just a lack of knowledge, that's why you're doing it, then cool, that's cool. Because we don't know. Like you said, at one point, we always at a certain place. At one point, we were always at a certain place. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about growth. It's all about development. And like I said, this ain't about looking down on anyone. But to your point, cuz, if me and my people are further along the path that everyone says they want to get to, then why not follow what we're doing and support what we're doing?
Absolutely.
If there are nations that are around you that have been keeping the fight going, remained organized, remained, pushing forward, kept their culture alive, why not go and support them? Why are you all starting your own things? And that, to me, really starts to look malicious. It starts to look selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It starts to look egotistical. It starts to look just like the Americans. And I'm going to say that because we come from nations that were dealing with the English and the British before this American thing got started.
Absolutely.
Before there was an America,
mm-hmm.
there were the Dutch, there were the British, there were the Spanish, there were the French. So we dealt with them. And this is where I start to get upset, especially when they start to talk the color stuff, because I'm like, my people didn't have issues with white people. We had issues with Europeans. European did not have a color associated with it at that time, which should say to you that there were dark-skinned Europeans here that were colonizing and fighting with my people. So to now ask me and my people to link up with you because A, you don't know that history, and B, you don't care to know it. You're just trying to see what you can get. And since I look like you, and since we look like you, if you can associate yourself with us, you get ahead. You know what I'm saying? All of that is really insulting. It's insulting to me and my people to even be approached like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do the history, it's even more absurd because our nations were not getting along with each other before Europeans got here. Even though we look like each other and are related, we weren't getting along. My people were fighting with Pequots. My people were fighting with Poconokids. You know what I'm saying? When the peace treaty got signed between the Poconokids and the Pilgrims, it was in part because all of the disease wiped them out, and now my people were the dominant ones in the region. So when the Pilgrims showed up, the Massasoit was like, all right, if I can link with them, I can get back some of what I lost. When he signed that peace treaty, my grandfather, Canonicus, sent the English that were here, or the British. I always get that mixed up. The English that were here, a bundle of arrows wrapped in a snakeskin as a challenge. Like, yo, don't link with them or you're going to have problems with us. They sent us back gunpowder. We didn't have no guns. So we were like, all right, we got to hold up. That's how that goes. Eventually what happens is the English start breaking all the treaties. Let me take that back. The English colonists stop breaking all the treaty, because you brought up a good point last week with on that last interview, cuz we didn't really have no issues with the crown. We didn't have no issues. We had treaties with them. It was these British colonists that eventually became the Americans that we had problems with. So now tie yourself into all of that history with this term American. The Americans are the ones that broke treaties with us, turned on us, stole our lands from us, and then created their own country. You're now calling yourself an American and then telling me and my people supposed to link up with you because we're the real Americans. Now, and then when I get upset and tell you I'm not linking with you, I'm a hater, I'm a sucker, I'm a Pan-African. Like, so there's no logic there, right? So if it's not logic and I'm telling you it's not logical and you double down, now to me it's malicious. So now I don't got there's no connection there. Now I'm going to deal with you like how our people deal with people.
Now this is the thing. So like I said, I'm not going to get into, I don't want to get into like making this about one particular topic and getting caught up into whatever the Moors is talking about. But the Moors brag on the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? Now that that treaty was drawn up for the simple fact that when the colonists revolted against Britain, Morocco had treaties with Britain, right? So when the Americans revolted against Britain, they revolted against their nation, right? They revolted against any nation that was in treaty with Britain. That would be the indigenous nations here, as well as the Moorish nations in North Africa and Spain. So when they broke off those treaties, now Morocco was not getting no more money from import and exports that was coming from the colonies, right? So Morocco, in attempts to still get the money that they was getting from what was going on in the colonies, reached out to the Americas, to the president. That's when he sent the delegate, what's my man? He got the arena right in Brooklyn, is named after him. Thomas Barclay. Thomas Barclay and another brother was sent, not brother, no, these are white guys, was sent to Europe to negotiate what's in the treaty. And that was only so Morocco could continue to get the money that they was getting from the colonies, because they had to deal with Britain, right? So all this has to deal with, the Revolutionary War, right, plays a way bigger role than people are realizing, because it's when they're drawing the lines.
Yes.
This is when they drew the lines between, this is when the Moors who were in bed with the European colonists got cut out.
Thank you. So this is what I'm saying. There's clowns in this chat talking about users. Moors was over here with Europeans and we were fighting against you. So why would I link with you now? But please continue, cuz I'm sorry. Please continue.
So now, obviously, this is not all of, it's not all the Moors.
No, absolutely not.
And that's something that, we have to be mindful of. Like, just like they'll tell you, oh, Cherokee owned slaves. How could you say you were Cherokee? Because I'm a Cherokee. I can't change that from Cherokee's own slaves. That doesn't condemn the entire Cherokee nation. It just means some of them adopted this culture that the Europeans offered us.
The logic, though.
Yeah.
Black people join gangs. Oh, black people don't. So they get the logic. They get the logic, because if someone said that about black, they'll be up in arms.
Yeah.
But they're going to come to you on the Indian side and do the same thing the Europeans do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so much we could talk about in terms of the psychology of the people that we deal with. Like, we're in a movement that is predicated on us telling our own truths, our own stories. Change the narrative, tell your own story. But rarely do I see anyone actually telling their narrative, their story. I hear you talk about your family, your history, what went on between your people and the surrounding nations, tribes around you. I hear you speak about that. I speak about my people. I speak about the contributions my family made. I speak about, I could even go into speaking about, the amalgamations, the way we, the way we were colonized, the way we were, I could speak about all the little nuances of these things, right? The businesses we had, like my heroes come from my family because I studied my family and I found great things in my family. And I just want to tell my story.
There you go.
Everybody else wants to tell everyone else's story. And what they need to understand is that at this point, right, this giant, we black people did this, we built the pyramids, we did this, we did all these great things, and you're associating yourself with all these things based on the complexion of your skin. Yeah. That not gonna work no more. That's what you do when you want to start raising people up as babies. You got to give them this big, you know what I mean? But now that you adults, it takes more than that to inspire you. It's going to take you being able to see the contributions that your actual ancestors made to make you want to go out here and really do something. And that's what it took for me.
There you go.
And not at the expense of others.
No.
So me Yeah.
Because how can telling your own personal story ever take away from someone else? And if it does take away from that other person, what did they do to you that you telling your story takes away from them? So that's the thing. I love how you said it. Everyone's trying to tell everyone else's story. What's your story? What's your story? Tell me about your narrative when we meet. When I went up to Link at the Ramapo powwow, I'm up there meeting Lenape in Lenape territory, learning about Lenape culture and history. Even though it's similar to mine, it's theirs. When I get there, I exchange my ways with them. There's an exchange of knowledge there. Now there's a relationship that's going on that's personal based upon each of our individual and our familial experiences. You ain't getting that through the internet. You ain't getting that through some European book you read. You're not. I don't care how much you studied. And I'm telling everyone this because I personally did not grow up in the culture. I grew up with the knowledge. But I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, in Mount Hope, and in Fox Point, playing ball, going to school, you know, doing all that stuff that kids from the hood do. That's what I grew up doing. When it kicked in for me was when my grandmother passed in 2006. When she passed, you know, you start thinking about all of the elders and what they said. And I realized at that point, I can't go and ask her anything anymore. I can't go and talk to her anymore. So what was it that she was trying to say to me when she was here? And one of the main things was get more involved with your culture. And what happened was once I made the choice to do that, I found that there were elders, chiefs, warriors who had been waiting for me because they knew who my people were. They knew where I came from. They knew what I was supposed to be doing. So when I showed initiative humbly and respectfully, because at that point I was coming humbly and respectfully because I had no choice. My grandmother was gone. I was hurting and I was seeking. So they could see I was earnest. Then they started to share with me. And when they shared with me, I applied the knowledge that they shared with me, so they shared more with me. There's a Poconoke elder named Miss Judith Wills. She grew up with my grandmother. When I was in grad school, she hired me as an intern. Now, I knew we had the Indian connection, but I wasn't much into it then. And I remember I would just ask her, Miss Wills, you know, I know you do the Indian stuff. Like, what's this mean? And she would just look at me and be like, you're not ready yet. And I used to be like, Miss Rose, what do you mean I'm not? And she'd just be like, you're not ready, but when you're ready, I'll let you know. And I used to just think it was the craziest thing. My grandmother passes. I start getting heavier into the culture. I start traveling around. Lo and behold, I bump into Miss Wills. She pulls me to the side and says, now you're ready. I need to tell you a few things. And she'd been watching me for years, waiting for me to be ready. It wasn't because I went and researched. It wasn't because I came to her and told her who I was and that I knew this and I knew that. I wouldn't have learned anything. But she watched me. She saw me earnestly trying to be a part of my culture, earnestly trying to learn the right ways, earnestly trying to be respectful. And then she shared with me. And the other thing is, I've been on this path. My grandmother passed in 2000, almost 20 years of trying to learn my culture, and I'm only here. I know for people out there, it may look like, oh, cool, he's dancing, but there's so many people out here who know more than me. I just happen to, I guess, have a little bit of a following and a platform, but what I always tell people is I got to go check in. I got to go make sure I'm doing it right. I got to go make sure I'm not out of step, because there's norms, there's traditions, there's ways. So you can't, Aboriginal community family, I'm going to call y'all family because that's how I look at y'all. Y'all just like that family that's whining. You know what I'm saying? Y'all the family that, you know what I'm saying? You know, y'all know. Yeah, I love y'all family, but y'all got to chill. You know what I'm saying? Y'all whining right now.
It's like they trying to reset the rules, and they trying to take away what, like, they're trying to yeah, they're trying to implement aspects of the culture into cyberspace, right? They're trying to claim certain things that make them almost more authentic
There you go.
than people who are still actually in the culture and dealing with the traditions, because like really it's a mind state. And like if you were of that particular mind state, you wouldn't be coming at people the way you come at them. You would see the jewels that they have to offer, and you would want to humble yourself. Like, yeah, like I sit around chiefs, right? Chief man. Chief man is like 2 or 3 years older than me, bro. But I sit at his feet like I'm a child. That man only 2, 3 years older than me. But when I'm around him, he's my elder. You know why? Because he has so much more wisdom, and he's been raised in the tradition, and there's so much I can learn from him that, yeah, he may have been a senior when I was a sophomore, freshman, but I know his experiences in the culture. He is my grandfather when it comes to that. And I got to respect him as that. So when he asks me to do things and all that, you'll see me running around like I'm a child. Whatever you need, Chief, because that's respect. I'm humble. Regardless of the fact that I get out here and talk circles around the average person, I know the average person don't know nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'm the one-eyed man leading the blind, but I know it. And I know I got so much more to learn. That's why I surround myself with people like yourself. That's why, you know what I mean? And then like people talk about Indian country, like the hood is not Indian country.
No, it's the hood.
It's the hood. And we're not going to take these ways and try to morph it and act like this is traditional culture. Are there certain aspects between the cultures we live now and our ancient traditional cultures? Absolutely.
But leave that there.
Yeah, but don't try to erase everything so you can act like you the real this or you the real that. No, we are very unique people. Our story has not truly been told, and we don't need to be trying to like chink the story to make it more impactful. No, our story is, listen, we was colonized. The majority of us were stripped of our cultures, and guess what? That don't mean they didn't exist. Honestly, my ancestors fell away from the culture because it was easier to get a job than the farm. It was easier to participate in some of them. It was easier to participate in the modern aspects of what society had to offer than to continue in the old traditional ways. And that caused problems in the family. How you talked about, you got the cousins who was the bands and the ones who wanted to go off and do their own little things. And then you had the cousins who wanted to stay in the traditions. And this drove wedges in between families to the point where 70 years later, you got this family saying that their cousins ain't Indians. And the outsiders don't understand that what they're saying is, no, y'all gave up the tradition. See what I'm saying? And that's what, like, all this federally recognized, are you federally recognized, all this stuff, all these are conversations that are like, there's nuances to the conversation, but the people are having them in a very general, broad, are you recognized? No, then you ain't an Indian. And that's that. Do you get a check? Do you get paid to play Indian? No, I don't. Then you ain't an Indian. Like, they don't understand the devil is in the details. You know what I'm saying? It's like none of these, like, what's y'all cultures? Bro, do you know what culture is? A culture is how you interact with the land and the environment around you.
That's it.
So what do you mean, what is my culture? I've been living my culture all my life. My people been living their culture all their life. Yo, my people was farming 300 years ago, right? And they was farming up until the point where they took it away from us.
Because, here's the arrogance of it, right? Because indigenous more. Before you can question someone about their culture, you need to have one.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, before you started calling yourself an indigenous more, you was calling yourself something black. You was calling yourself. So you switching identities based upon what you think is going to benefit you personally the most. And that's why we can't connect with you. Like the brother said, this is a spirit. See, when you get into your traditions and your cultures, you start tapping into the actual spirit of your people. And see, this is why, and I want to address this too, all of this, the ancestors nonsense, the ancestors. Because here's my question. Which ancestors is guiding you? Because a lot of the ancestors were suckers. A lot of the ancestors was selling out. A lot of the ancestors quit when the war was going on. It was drunk. It was getting drunk and selling off land to white people. A lot of the ancestors was eager to go assimilate because they thought they could get up on their cousins because they wasn't running the nation. So when you say you're being guided by the ancestors, which ancestors? My people might got problems with your ancestors. So all of that, because it's like, it's ego. It's based in ego and self-benefit for something. I'll switch whatever identity is. Oh, that's the word for this week. I'm gonna switch over to this word and be this week. But like you said, but none of that's your actual narrative. You done switched up 7-8 times these past decade. So who are you actually, other than chasing after European words, trying to get a leg up in the system? And then I'm gonna hit you with this as well, Indigenous more. I want you to go look up the Treaty of Hartford from 1638.
Bro, let me tell you something real quick.
Yes, sir.
I'm on Indigenous Moore's YouTube page. He has no playlists, no subscribers, no nothing. This is just a troll.
Okay.
I'm taking a different approach with these trolls. Like, people think it's some shame in the block game. Yo, I'm like Matumbo.
No, block them up.
I'm like LeBron getting that one chip in Cleveland.
Get to blocking, cuz I learned that from you, as a matter of fact. I had that convo with you, and I was like, you know what? Cuz is correct.
We not gonna play this. Like, if you don't got your face up, if you ain't got no content,
you gotta go.
You ain't got nobody that, you know what I mean?
He's not even worthy to be in the presence. Get him out of here. And this is what I want to say to you, cuz I want to reframe what you said. You're not running around like a child for your chief. You're running around like a warrior. Because see, as a warrior, it's an honor to be at service to your chief. It's an honor for them to think to ask you. Because if they're a chief, then they got several warriors. So if they're asking you, then that means they specifically are asking you for a reason. See, it's a whole mind flip. It gets away from what's in it for me to what am I adding to this tribe that I'm in. Because that's how you elevated yourself in the capacity of a warrior, by what you did for your tribe. When you went hunting, how much meat did you bring back? And we were fighting, how many warriors did you defeat or capture? You know, when we needed to go and build wigwams, how many? That's how you progressed, on what you were doing, not on you sitting back and ridiculing people because they don't know as much as you, and you was dressed the flyest, so they're gonna, that's all American nonsense. And no, the hood is not Indian country. The hood's the hood. The hood is not a reservation. The hood's the hood. I grew up in the hood. My people got a reservation. A reservation got separate laws. The city police ain't coming into the reservation unless the tribe has agreed to it. The hood's the hood. And in the hood, it ain't just Indians. There's Africans. In my hood, we got Southeast Asians. We got Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. You know what I'm saying? So, no, the hood's not the reservation. And please, stop trying to meld the two. You should have both. You should be able to move in both worlds. There's a concept we have. Walking in two worlds. Our people have always understood this since European contact. We got to deal with these people in their space. They're the ones controlling everything right now. But we still got to remember who we are. And you don't remember who you are by melding it with what these people are doing. You separate them, and then you move in each how you need to move. So Aboriginal community, family, please stop the melding. Stop trying to create something new. There's nothing new that needs to be created. It's all wonderfully still here, alive, well. Elders that can teach you the language, teach you what the dances mean, teach you what the songs mean. There are songs around that we sing on my drum that have been around for thousands of years, confirmed. Confirmed. Songs that have been around for thousands of years, confirmed, that someone thought highly enough of me to share. And the brother who shared it, he's not a chief, but I still got to go, like you said, Turtle, to his feet to learn what he has to learn. Artie Crippen and Miss Kathy Mann Crippen. Kathy Mann Crippen from Ramapo. Even though I'm the chief of my people, I got to go to their feet to ask them if they'll teach me stuff, because I still don't know all that there is to know, even though I know a lot more than I used to.
Okay. So the sister just asked, or I'm not, brother, sister, LL Lewis, is urban Indian a real term to use? Urban Indian is a classification. Yeah, it's a real term. It's a classification that identifies people who are of native ancestry, that live in urban areas, and that are known by the native communities, participate in, like, there's a long definition for it. But yeah, it's an actual thing that like here in New York, they even got benefits for urban Indians. You can apply for them. You can get like your you can get your subway ticket. You know, you can get your swipes. You know, you get little different things. They help you with housing. But yeah, urban Indian is a real term. You just gotta know how to tap into it.
Yeah, because you hit an important point. Urban Indian, you're an Indian when you're known by your community as an Indian. And that's the term they use, community, because they don't want to talk about tribes. But that requires then that you actually be engaged with the community that's there. Involved, not that you're going and creating your own one, because there are already quote unquote communities of Indians that everyone knows those are the Indians. So if you're creating your own thing over here, the first thing they're going to say is, well, do you know them over there? And see, even with my people, we will fight amongst each other, but they're not going to say they don't know who I am. They might say, well, I don't like what he's doing, or he shouldn't, but they're not going to tell you they don't know who I am. So when you popping up claiming to be an Indian, but none of the Indians in the Indian community knows you, how are you an Indian? You an American that has some indigenous heritage. If you want to be an Indian, and here's where we get into the terms, right? Because if you want to be an Indian, then you got to start acting like an Indian.
Say it again.
Or you're just going to be an American. If you want to be an Indian, you got to act like an Indian. And Indians don't act like we act in the hood. Indians don't act like we act in the city. That's not act, that's acting like an American. Believe me, I did a healthy amount of being an American before I got into this Indian stuff. They're completely different.
And let me talk about something else in terms of so we all on a journey, right? And it's going to take time to get to where we, because like we're on a journey where we're moving backwards, but we're simultaneously moving forwards. You know what I'm saying? We're acquiring things we lost as we move forward, as we advance in technology, as we do all these things. We're still reaching back to bring a whole host of things with us, and that's going to take time, right? So certain things that are mandatory, right? When you start talking about where you want to go, certain things from that bag are mandatory. You got to reach back and grab them. Language would be one, right? Language is gateway to the culture, right? Your history is in your language. So much exists within that language, right? And on top of learning language, you got to learn how it's functionally spoken. You got to, because it's not like how you learn English and you learn words and you put words together and speak and you got English. These languages are very, like, they're not easy languages to learn. They're sacred languages and they convey so much more than what English does. So when you got people on here taking shortcuts and thinking they're teaching the language and they can't even say the terms properly in terms of the sound. Like, I can speak some of my language, right? I can speak some of it, but I'm so far from being able to express it how it properly should be spoken that I reserve that for me because I'm learning, right? But my cousin, however, Silent Hawk, has taken it upon himself to be the one that's going to bring the language back to our family. So at this point, he's been studying for years and he can speak 2 dialects of our language. He speaks the Muncie and the Munami, right? And he's bringing that back for the family. And that's a part of what he You know what I mean? His responsibility towards the family. Now we have other members who are participating in recreating, you know, our newspaper and things of that nature. But the point I'm trying to make with the language, it's so sacred that you cannot have someone who has a minimal understanding of a language professing that they're going to go out here and now start teaching the language when it's a functional language. You got to be able to talk to somebody else who even speaks that language and know if you're even doing it right.
Absolutely. I mean, let's crush this right here. Niji. That's a Creek word. That's a Cree word up in Canada. That has nothing to do with the Southeast. That has nothing to do with the Northeast. My people say Nitamp, but they say other things in other areas. Every 50 miles or so, the dialect changes. It's all still Algonquian, but that is a Cree word. If you're not Cree, why are you appropriating their word and throwing it around like, yo, my Niji? Because we all know what you're just substituting for.
Yeah.
You're just trying to do the American thing, but sprinkle some Indian on it. And that's insulting. That's insulting. You're insulting people. You're not honoring your ancestors. You're not honoring the tribes. You're most certainly not honoring me when you try to Indian up what you've been doing.
See, what we're doing now, we're trying to shut all this down so people realize, like, just because you go live on your Instagram, on your internet, on your, you know what I mean? You're not tapping into Indian country. You're not tapping into Indian country until you physically go to these people and humble yourself and sit with these people. And that's what respect is. Like, that's how your grandmother would have did it.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? And let me tell you something about all that. Like, my grandmother, like, when we say our elders taught us this, like, it wasn't too many times that my grandmother sat me down and said, baby, this is who you are. These are things that were just known by the family. It was common knowledge. It wasn't no one sit down. This is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So when we start talking about, everybody's like, oh, my grandmother this. You learn that information from these books.
Thank you. Your grandmother ain't sit you. You know
what I'm saying?
Tell
you all that.
Please.
Like, be 100. And
come on, was this a movie went in? They set the scene up. You know what I'm saying? The camera was on the side. It panned across with you a single teardrop from your eye when she sat you down. Please, man. And like you said, because we can see through that nonsense. When you're talking to real Indians, they see through that nonsense. So why even try it? Why not just humble and say, hey, I don't know. Could you teach me? Hey, I don't know. Could you show me? And then here's an even bigger idea, cuz if the person says no, they're not going to teach you, or no, they're not going to show you, say thank you for your time, have a great day, instead of insulting them, instead of talking about they ain't real, F you, F that. You're not going to get help. People are watching your spirit. That's what's going on, and you don't
measuring your spirit.
You don't even know that that's what's going on. But the moment you hit a powwow and no one knows you, all eyes are on you, I guarantee you, and they're watching how you conduct yourself. And before you've even made it over to them to have a dialogue with them, they've already come to a conclusion about how your spirit is.
Yep. I tell, people say to me all the time, how can I this? And, they want to, they're trying to get into these Indian communities, get into these, they're trying to, I just found out, they find out I got such and such, and now they're trying to approach these people, and they're like, yo, I just found out such and such, I'm gonna go to the powwow, and I'm gonna let them know who I am. And I'm like, no, go to the powwow and just be a genuine person. You ain't go there, be humble, you know what I'm saying? Come do some trade, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are the things you need to be doing to ingratiate yourself with the people because they watching. Just rolling up and saying, rolling up with somebody with a piece of paper saying, oh, my grandmother was da-da-da-da. How can I get in? That's not how you going.
That's my answer. You can't.
Yeah.
Go get your mother or someone and have her come talk to me about you, because I don't even like how you approached me.
Yeah. People don't realize, like, it's you're dealing with real human beings, in the same way you would go to a woman if you found out some woman was your great grandmother but she don't know you, you know what I mean, and you would run up on her and say, hey, you're my great grandmother. She's still gonna want to know, oh yeah, okay, well, whose people are you? Which one of my grandkids?
Thank you.
is your parent?
Thank you.
You know, they're gonna want to know these things so they can put it together for themselves.
Thank you. Because remember, perfect example. So came up to the Ramble Poor Power. I forget the brother's name. Tall brother there. First time I met him, he was like, hey, Two Hawks. I was coming out of the circle. He's like, man, listen, I just been following you on. I seen that you said you was coming up to the power. I didn't even know, man. I just popped up, man. Could I just ask you a few questions? Of course, I took the time out to speak to the brother. I think I brought him over to you, if I'm not mistaken. Lo and behold, he's connected to a whole bunch of people there at the powwow that he didn't know. And they all accepted him. Why? Because when you watched his spirit and how he was coming, he was humble. He was genuine. He didn't quite know what was going on, so he wanted to make sure he put his best foot forward. Excuse me, Chief Two Hawks. I look over, sir, could I just have a moment of your time? He wasn't like, and this gets me, right? Because we're talking Indian stuff and I'm a chief. Yo, bro, when I get that in my inbox, I can't delete it fast enough, because if I was a senator, if I was the mayor, if I was in one of these European positions that you have respect for, I wouldn't get a yo, bro. I wouldn't get a yo, how come you can't? Yo, hit me up. Here's my number. I'd get respect. So here you are, like you said, trying to ingratiate yourself into a culture that you're not connected with yet, but you're also at the same time trying to place yourself in some sort of a position or authority as if you're entitled to that culture that you're trying to ingratiate yourself into. And then when those people don't embrace you because of how you're approaching them, somehow the problem's them. And now you're going to go off and start your own community. And we're the crazy ones because we ain't rubber stamping it.
Like it's people out here like really starting their own powwows. You know what I mean? Like, and they have no they have no connection to the communities, and people don't realize that we all know each other in these communities. We might not know everybody, but I'm gonna know at least one person from every one of these communities.
Thank you.
And somebody will be able to vouch for me and walk me in to whoever I need to sit down with. You know what I'm saying? Because we're actually active out here, partaking in the culture on whatever level you are, and we're being humble in that. Like I know what I bring to the table in this community. You know what I'm saying? And my I know what my value is. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I have to offer to the community, and that's what has ingratiated me with the community. You know what I mean? It's not just that my family history, right? Because my family history is the same history of all my cousins.
Thank you.
Right? But it's the energy I'm coming with, it's the humbleness I'm coming from with, and it's I want to be a part, and I have something to, you know what I mean? How they say you go to somebody, you don't ask them, what can you do for me? You ask them, what can I do for you?
Thank you.
And that's the energy people need to be moving in. And you're going to find way more opportunities and doors open, and relationships are able to be forged when you come with that type of spirit. Not when you come with, we the original ones, and y'all a bunch of Black Europeans and this and that. Why are you telling anybody what they are? Why don't you, if you want to talk about what anybody is, talk about who you are. And
Thank you.
Stop assigning something to everybody else.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? The moment we don't agree with what they have to say, we're now Black Europeans who colonized, and we're bougie Indians, and we're all these things because we don't agree with the way you moving. But guess what? I know that the way you moving is not going to be the results you want.
Thank you. You ain't gonna be able to cut. Let's get real, cuz. Let's get real. Someone gonna beat you up. Someone gonna punch you in your face. A bunch of Indians might beat you up and punch you in your face because that ain't a negative thing in our way. And what happens when someone gets beat up? Do they be like, "Oh, that's messed up"? Well, what happened? Why did he get punched in the face? Oh, damn. Yeah, I can see that. So you're not only gonna get what you're looking for, you're gonna get something you don't want. And that's what we're also trying to keep people from. And I mean, it's a culture, and you're not in it, so you can't assume that you understand it when you approach it. You wouldn't go and approach a Cambodian function that's going on and rush in there, asserting yourself, and you don't got no idea what's going on there. You wouldn't go into a Jewish bar mitzvah and asserting you don't know what's going on there. But you'll come over to our culture because we look similarly, and it's outrageous. If I could, because I see a question here, Angel.
Yeah, I want to address
Fauna Real. I sent emails and got no response. Yes, and this is the problem. If you look at what Fauna is, it's a confederation of nations. So, Angel, if you're not a nation, why would you be reaching out to Fauna? Properly, the chief of your nation would be reaching out to Fauna to connect with other chiefs. And no, Fauna would not be a primary source in researching indigenous authority. There is no such thing as indigenous authority. Each individual nation has its own sovereignty and authority. So when you say indigenous authority, I'm going to say, well, which indigenous authority? And all of them ain't the same. Every Lenape tribe right now don't have the same amount of sovereignty and authority. Every Narragansett tribe right now don't have the same amount of authority and sovereignty. We're all Narragansetts, but people make different deals and sign different agreements. So there's no one broad brush that you can paint across anything. When they use the term Indian and when I use the term Indian, I'm strictly using that to talk about the many thousands of nations that got colonized by these Europeans. Once you get past that, there are no similarities as far as I'm concerned. I need to know specifics about everything. And like you said, cuz this quote-unquote Indian country and quote-unquote Indian community ain't that big when you get into it. It ain't that big when you get into it. It's not big at all. And people know when you're faking. Like I said, might get into it, might fight. You'll see those Indians out west, this, that, and the other. But I guarantee you, but behind the ones that are on there spewing all of this garbage, there's some traditional Indians back there like, nah, they're legit. There's some real Indians out there.
No, what are you saying? Just a minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, my confederation isn't an indigenous authority. It's a confederation of separate indigenous nations. There's no one authority. All of us retain, every nation in fauna retains its sovereignty. They're not under anyone, and none of us can tell each other what to do. We just formalized our agreements, and we can't help you if you're not in our nation. And that's the other thing. Like, no one can give you a card to someone else's nation. No one can make you a citizen of someone else's nation. No one, you can't remove yourself from U.S. citizenship unless you make an appointment with Homeland Security and go in and request to remove your citizenship. Then they have to approve it. And if you're trying to request to remove your citizenship to get out of paying taxes or something like that, they're going to deny it. And if you request to get your citizenship removed and you're not a citizen of another nation that has some sort of agreement with the U.S. to be here, you're going to be a stateless citizen. Then you ain't going to have no protection at all. No constitution, no nothing. So all of that madness that goes on is illogical. How can you make yourself a part of someone else's nation?
Yeah. See, I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, they'll be like, oh, I'm Cherokee. And they think that because they're Cherokee that they will be members of this standing group of Cherokee.
No, you're an American with some Cherokee heritage.
Yeah, and those people who are a part of this recognized federal nation are a group of people who made agreements with the United States. They don't represent all of the Cherokee.
No. They represent that group of Cherokee that made those agreements, and that's why the U.S. that's the only group of Cherokee they talk about. Because the other Cherokee would get people thinking, hey, wait a minute, these ain't the only Cherokee? So don't even go into that conversation. Focus on these Cherokee. If you put yourselves in the shoes of America and the American colonial government, everything going on makes absolute sense.
Now, it's a brother, Mr. Ali Bey. This is something I'd definitely like to talk to you about. So he says, this is Ali from Be the Power. We're teaching our Black American family about their American freedman status, and we're getting pushback from the Dane Callaways and top cats of the world. So this is an interesting phenomenon that's now starting to take place. People are being forced to identify with their actual freedman identities, those who have that in their face, I mean, in their families. And there's people who have been researching from the perspective of, oh, we're Indian, and there's people who have been researching from the perspective we're African. But what they're finding a common ground in there, and that's the freedmen, right? So I know Lord Abba just recently came out and said he identified himself as being a freedman. You know what I mean? And this is something that these are conversations that they never, these are chambers they never would have looked into had we not introduced these conversations.
That's the beauty of it, because there's so much more out there to learn. But let me share with y'all brothers this. There's no self-declaring anything that's going to change being a U.S. citizen. The electors, the elected representatives of this nation made decisions that U.S. citizens are subject to. There's no individual deciding that you're not going to be something. And like I said, until you go and sit at Homeland Security and they grant your request to be removed from their citizenship, you're a U.S. citizen no matter what you file, no matter what you say. Everyone's a U.S. citizen. Now, here's the problem. That's not a bad thing. I don't understand why everyone thinks you need to exercise it. The problem with U.S. citizens is that the system has you thinking the only time to vote is for the U.S. president. So then even when you vote for the U.S. president and nothing changes, then it turns into, oh, voting's pointless. Not paying attention to, you should be voting for your council person, for your city alderman. Matter of fact, you should be running for that position. So you're the one directing the money. So you're the one being the voice. So the problem with the U.S. citizen side is no one interacts with it. And if you recall, when your ancestors were trying to vote, they started bombing them. They started shooting them and sicking dogs on them. So now how do you get it in your mind that voting is a bad thing? No, voting and losing and then having other people control you is a bad thing. Absolutely. But not voting and having other people control you is just as bad. So if you're a U.S. citizen, exercise those rights. What everyone should be looking to do is find out what the other heritage is, where it connects to, and what rights or privileges does that specific heritage afford. And it may afford none. If you go back to the Doors rules, that means you're a part of those group of people who signed. So you can't come claiming nothing else other than your blood heritage, because your ancestors signed agreements that are on you. So you can go back and try to work things out with the Creek or the 5 civilized nations, but outside of that, there's no claims unless another nation extends them to you. You cannot run around and self-declare and then go and say, I'm taking lands back because my people, your ancestors made decisions. And then once again, Turtle, you brought up some excellent points. Your ancestors weren't a bunch of wine bags like we are today. And they were going through a lot worse. They literally had the KKK burning crosses on their lawns. They literally were getting lynched and were seeing lynches going on. And they had problems with the police. You on your phone, you clubbing, you can go get a job anywhere you want, and you whining about what the quote-unquote white man did to you. Meanwhile, you acting just like him when we tell you your conduct's out of place. So all of this, I'm doing this for my ancestors. No, you're not. You're doing it for yourself, and you're using your ancestors as a justification for being selfish. And it's insulting to your ancestors. If we really want to get to the ancestors, you're insulting to your ancestors because once again, we see the spirit. We see it. We hear it in your tone. We see it in the things you want to talk about. 2, 3 questions, and now you're asking about money. Okay, so you really wanted to know if we was getting money. I get it.
And
how you can get some money.
That's what it really comes down to. People are interested in the money. And let me just, I mean, there's so many things I want to say. But to your point, like, I'm not like, I don't know too many of us who are in this for the money. The people who are in it for the money are already getting the money, and they want to maintain what it is they have. Like these online personalities, right? I think they think like they're gonna miss out on a check, right? Because the same people talking about reparations and their ancestors, what make you think your ancestors that actually suffered from these things didn't get a check and didn't run it up and then didn't lose it all during integration?
You know,
okay. So, like, what makes you deserving of receiving some type of reparation for slavery that your ancestors who made it through that and were able to build lives for themselves and build communities for themselves? And those communities morphed into cities and towns that still exist that many of us are from, right? So people think they're missing out on a bag that's never going to come.
Thank you.
That reparations ain't going to come. And you don't want that, like, what it would take for you to come from nowhere to get to a point to where you are federally recognized. We're talking 50, 60 years possibly. As a group of people to come out of nowhere to build their shit back up to where you're getting federally recognized.
Because what's the check? What's the price tag going along with that?
And
you got to go and meet with all of the federal people, right? And shake hands and take them out to dinner and contribute to their campaigns.
And you're just doing American politics at this point. Like, so all that thinking that people are going to miss out on something, you not. Listen, we from these cities, right? We know how to make our own money. We know how to be industrial. We know how to build. We just need to be able to move forward, right? In our proper status and our proper identities, right? And that's a spiritual thing.
Thank you.
Because that's going to bring us together, so we work together as our own individual communities, tribes, so forth and so forth. Then when we get to the point where we can build ourselves up and we can be sustainable amongst our own selves, then we can start interacting with each other and start building a greater connection that is now going to end up healing the land. But all this stuff is literally going to start with your own individual families.
That's the only place it can start, because that's how it was before Europeans got here with your family. So you not, and the Europeans know that. They know exactly what they did to indigenous folks here. So you trying to remix it ain't going nowhere, because they're gonna be and this is the trick they play. They will let you talk all you want. They will let you be as loud and as boisterous as you want and sit and say nothing, and you think because they're not saying nothing, you're right. No, they're not saying nothing because they know how wrong you are, and they're going to let you keep going.
Keep running with it.
They're going to let you keep on. Yup. They might even come in and encourage you. Yeah, you're right. And think about it. Just think about it. Y'all got so much hate for all these white folks. Now all these videos pop up. Yup, black folk are the original. The same people you was hating last month that been manipulating you, taking advantage of your ancestors, lying to you. Now all of a sudden this month, because they're agreeing with you, now they're valid, and you're going to take their word over ours. Now, Angel, once again, you're not understanding what's going on here. Let me ask you a question. As a Mashipak Nahiganset, what right do I have to tell the U.S. and Canada about anyone who's not in my tribe? What right would I have? Like, this is what I'm not understanding. You're saying the foreign nations allowing, how do we have a right to stop them? Your nation has to stand up for you. So Angel, if you ain't gone and connected with your tribe and found out who your chief is, no one can help you. I can't go to Canada and say, angels and Aborigine, don't bother him. They're going to say, what right do you have to tell us that? And the same thing, no one's going to come to Mashapog and be like, you need to do this for them. I'm going to be like, who are you to tell my nation anything? So nations can't tell nations anything. I don't, and there's this, that's what I'm saying. There's this misunderstanding and lack of logic that's going on.
Because they're American citizens who are under the whole structure of what the United States is. A president, he delegates, the states accept the laws.
But they're all part of the American nation. I'm a Mashipog Narragansett. That's the Mashipog Narragansett nation. America can't come tell me what to do. I can't go tell America what to do. I can tell America what it ain't gonna do to me and my people. I can tell America what it agreed it was going to do for me and my people, but I don't got no authority to speak on behalf of no one else. And that's why we created a confederation, because we said each of us is having this issue individually. If we all get together, then we can collectively address all of our individual issues together as separate nations. So now, when I'm Director General of FANA, I'm not speaking on behalf of FANA. I'm speaking as an appointed representative of each of the FANA nations. And I can only speak on what the FANA nations agreed to about their own citizens. There is no generic. There's no such thing as Aborigine. That's a European term. It's not a nationality. It doesn't give you any separate rights or rules. Or you might as well be Black Americans. What's the difference besides what you're calling yourself? There's no legal difference in calling yourself an Aborigine, an autochthonous. There's no legal difference. You're a U.S. citizen. You need to get active in the U.S. system, or you need to go and connect with your tribal nation. Those are the only two choices. Get active in the U.S. system, or go and connect with your tribal nation.
And not your internet tribe.
And thank you. And then when you connect with your tribal nation, you got to ingratiate yourself into their system. If you don't want to do those, you're just an American. That's it. And you're an American that's going to get stepped on by this system over and over, because guess what? Guess what happens when they get tired of all of the ruckus that the copper-colored Aborigines are causing? Getting treated just like the Black Americans was getting treated. But now you're a copper-colored Aborigine.
See, at this point, internet tribes are at their best businesses. Like, that's all it could be. A group of people coming together under a common belief system, but to do business.
Yeah.
And if you're successful at doing business, that's great, because you can make change with money.
Absolutely.
But it's not the same as a traditional, historical, standing nation or tribe that has historical context.
You're an internet community of people of like-minded interests and goals.
And that's great. Nobody is, but stop acting like you carry the weight.
Thank you.
That people who are actually involved in tribal matters in business and governance. Like, it's very different. And like, honestly,
where's the internet tribe's land?
Bro,
a tribe is literally tied to the land. That's what the whole that's why they attacked us and genocided us. That's why they misclassified us. They want the land. Internet tribe, where's your land? Because the metaverse, you know, like, where can you go and dig your hand in the soil and hold it up and breathe it? You know what I'm saying? And say, my people been here for thousands of, where is that at? Because it's not wherever your name. What was that group? ARNA, the Aboriginal Republic of North America. And I'm like, well, where's your land? America. No, because my people's land is in the place called Rhode Island, and Rhode Island's in America, and your people's land's not here. So you can't be from America. And then came the insults and the wanting to fight and the disrespect to my wife. Like, you know, like the spirit. You see the spirit a mile away.
Yeah, he same dude disrespected Yana Guska. He's like, oh, they got a European running their tribe. And like, that's something else I would like to address with these people who seem to think, because a brother said the new Black Indians, this is Mr. Ali Bey again, the new Black Indians are on social media saying that all Black Americans are actually Indians and have no African.
Yeah, that's outrageous. Mr. Ali Bey, that's outrageous. But first and foremost, most of them probably do have some African. And here's the thing, if it's not African, it may be East Indian. If it's not East Indian, it might be Atlantic Creole. If it's not Atlantic Creole, it might be Moorish. If it's not Moorish, it might be West African. And remember, all the West Africans that came here weren't slaves. Some of them were on the ships helping. Some of them got over here and got rewarded by the Europeans, given wives, Indian wives. How do they know they don't have those offspring? But beyond that, what's the matter if you do have African blood? What's the problem with that? Be proud. Be proud. I know some straight people from Liberia came over here because of the war that was going on. My son, and you see my son, if you follow me on IG, I'm raising my son to be super cultural. His godfather's Liberian. Why? Because that's my man. I don't need him to be an Indian to help him be a good man. So if you do I got tribal members right now that got Nigerian blood. The father's Nigerian. The father's Cape Verdean. The mother's Cape Verdean. The mother's Italian. Guess what? Still Narragansets. Narragansetts and.
That's another thing they don't understand about nations and ethnicity are two different things. Nationality and ethnicity are two different things. And people really think, like, listen, first of all, if you think that you are from a group of people who never intermingled with any other nation, if you even consider the term full blood, that means you're walking in the footsteps of these Europeans who taught you about the concept of being full blood. And there was a reason why they taught you that, right? So if you're walking in that light, like you definitely don't have your genealogy. Because there's no way you did your genealogy and you didn't find anybody of any other ethnicity or nationality in your family's history. That is super it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic, right? Let alone to say
your family members right now messing with people from other races. Come on, man. Mr. Ali Bey, we addressed the Dane Calloway situation earlier. My thing is this: anyone who speaks in absolutes, don't trust them. As soon as you hear someone throwing out an absolute, don't trust them. Mr. Ali Bey, I shared earlier, my people are from the state that they now call Rhode Island. Rhode Island was the #1 colony in the Atlantic slave trade. We were one of the 3 triangular trade areas. The Brown brothers that started Brown University made their fortune off of slaving and running drugs and other stuff. And Turtle, I want to bring this up because you made an excellent point the other day. And I'm going to put it like this, because there's all of this stupidity about where's the slave ships, right? We know that there's all kinds of illegal drugs being trafficked into the U.S. right now, right? Are they on ships called illegal drug trafficking ships? No, now imagine 100 years from now, someone looks back and says they weren't ever trafficking any drugs there. Where's the illegal drug trafficking ships? I don't see no illegal drug trafficking ships. If there was illegal drugs being trafficked, there'd be records of illegal drug trafficking ships. Like you said, wouldn't they be trafficking the illegal drugs on cargo ships with other stuff on it? How many cargo ships can you find during that same period? And did you go and check all of those cargo ships? And then let's really crush Mr. Calloway. Did he go and check the French records, the Spanish records before the English got there to make sure they didn't bring any slaves over? Because if he did, he wouldn't be talking like that at all. Because when you go into those records, they'll tell you they brought all kinds of Africans over here. Once they realized they couldn't get these Indians under their control, they brought all kinds of Africans over here. So for anyone to say that they're 100% anything or that they ain't got no African blood, you know what I'm saying? Stop being disrespectful to Africans. Stop being disrespectful generally. In general, stop being disrespectful.
This is something I also want to address. Now, people keep trying to marry me to an out of Africa theory, right? So I'm gonna speak on my perspective, how I see this, how I have drawn this up. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna speak for myself so no one else can put words in my mouth. Okay. First of all, when we deal with what we call the out of Africa theory, let me just say this, that scientists have theories, right? the average person who gets up and moves around every day, watches social media, reads whatever, they have theories too. But scientists' theories are based on scientific fact. The common person's and findings that are documented. The common person's theories or conspiracy theories are based on hunches, what ifs, you mean to tell me I can't believe that. That's what they're based on. So if I compare a scientific theory to somebody's belief, they're light years apart. But because, oh, that's my theory, we could try to make it like it's, but it's not. Scientific theory is based on actual scientific fact. Now, if the scientists are lying to us, that's fine. Then we can erase everything because everything we know has been documented in books, and we've received the majority of our education. I would say 99% of your education you've received from books, formal or informal. What did you learn that didn't come out of books? How to walk, how to talk, not how to spell, because you learn how to spell out of a book. You learn the aspects of your culture that are going to now allow you to participate in the greater culture, in the greater society. So the basic things you learn without a book: how to eat, how to talk, how to shit, how to do all these basic things. Everything else that is of a higher function, you learned it through repetition or you learned it through books, through experience, right? Or books. So now, if we're going to talk about accessing book information, the white man had his hand on all these books. Outside of your personal family books, a lot of this stuff is coming out of it. A lot of it is dealing with scientific findings, things of that nature. So people will argue one science against another science, right? But they're just basing it on what their preference is. Yeah. So I want to say this, for me, I'm not qualified. I'm not a genetic scientist. I'm not an archaeologist. I'm none of these things. I'm somebody who's equipped with the knowledge of my people. I'm equipped with the fundamentals that I was able to acquire from my people, from being a part of traditions and cultures that were passed down, right? So I know things like my nation's migration story. I know the general area where we come from as a people. I also know that we're called grandfather for a reason. And I'm not trying to pull no Trump card out.
But there's no disrespect in y'all being who you are.
Yes. So people want to marry me to the out of Africa theory, which was a scientific theory put together by people who were utilizing documented facts and evidence, right? So, but that theory wasn't put together to the 1900s. My people are on record with a book that was dictated to Europeans, and yeah, the Europeans wrote it down, so they could have altered it, they could have did anything. Okay, but it was dictated to them in the early 1800s. It was released in 1838. This is a whole 100 years before the out of Africa theory was presented. So when I talk about my migration stories, I'm talking about something that was being spoke of hundreds on record, at least 100.
Thank you.
But if not thousands and thousands of years before any European ever knew anything about any migration story. So I'm not talking about the out of Africa theory.
Thank you.
People talk about the out of Africa theory because their whole concept of how the earth was populated, was peopled, come from the European. It don't come from their tribal history or their national history.
Thank you.
So anytime we have that conversation, they call it out of Africa. I call it migration stories.
Thank you.
Now, when we start dealing with genetics and DNA and like getting a understanding of what it is, not how it's used against us, but what it truly is, right? The sciences that these Europeans developed, they developed them to verify or debunk what we were already saying.
Cuz, here's the
thing.
They
lived out of the Bible.
Thank you. Cuz.
But they needed to be able to verify the things they were reading from all these different cultures all over the planet, and sciences were developed.
But
for
here's what
them
I
to
want.
verify these things.
I want before anyone, because of what you just said, this is passed down from your people and then confirmed by what science found.
By what science?
By anyone who's going to argue against what you're saying, you can't give a European source for the argument.
Yeah.
If you're going to argue against what Turtle says, then you are not allowed to cite any Europeans. All right? You need to show where your information came from that's not a European source, because his comes from our people and our ancestors and what they passed down. If yours comes from Europeans, then that's your ancestors and what they're passing down to you, and that's cool. But don't come talking to us about Indian stuff. Now, because if I could, let me just slide back up, because I just want to make sure we're clarifying this. Angel, peace and love. What is your meaning for Aboriginal rights? Aboriginal rights for my tribe. The rights are for the tribes, not for individual people. This is what you're not understanding. Aboriginal rights are internationally, which means internation, between nations. Acknowledged and enforced. So they're acknowledged and enforceable for your nation, not for you as an individual. What is your meaning for Aboriginal title? The tribe still has title to its land. Angel, if you're not in Mashapag Narragansett, how can I do any of that for you? Who can? That's like France coming and doing something to you as an American citizen, even though the U.S. didn't give them permission. They can't do that. That'll start a war. So if you're a U.S. citizen, I can't go to the U.S. and say, he's an Aborigine, don't mess with him. They're going to say, he's a U.S. citizen, so you don't mess with him. You need to be with your tribe if you want any rights. And then the rights you have are based upon the rights your tribe has. There is no individual sovereignty. I'm sorry. I'm graduating May 20th.
No individual.
I've explored this concept for the past 3 years from an actual legal educational background. There's no individual sovereignty. Your sovereign is the nation. You are a citizen of your sovereign. Your rights and protections come from the rights and protections that your sovereign affords you. If you pull yourself out from underneath the rights and protections of your sovereign, you have no rights and protections. And there's no such thing as being Aboriginal to these lands. Aboriginal is a European term. I'm a Narragansett from Mashapag. You can't come around Mashapag claiming to be an Aboriginal. We're not Aboriginals. We're Narragansetts from Mashapag. Unless you can find a place on this earth called Aboriginal and then show you have a blood tie to that place called Aboriginal and in a language that's not from a European source, then there's no claiming to be an Aboriginal and getting anything other than being a U.S. citizen. And someone's going to have to point to me the legal basis if they're going to argue against me. I don't want to hear what people think. I don't want to hear what some philosopher wrote. I need to see the legal basis for everyone's talking about, because I've been studying the law generally for, I want to say, about since 2015, since 2014. So what are we, 8 years? And I've been in law school for 3. So 8 years total, 3 years specific and direct in a law school. There's no individual sovereignty. It simply doesn't happen. The rights everyone's looking for them to be acknowledged, the U.S. needs another nation to say it to them. And let me give you a perfect example. ASAP Rocky got locked up. Where did he get locked up? Overseas, right? Until Trump said something, nothing was moving. Until the U.S. said something, nothing was moving. It didn't matter what ASAP Rocky said while he was over there. Until his nation said, let him go, he ain't going nowhere. So same thing with y'all. Until your nation speaks up on your behalf, ain't nothing changing. And if you ain't associated with or a part of another nation, then just remove it all out your mind altogether. Just remove the thought out your, if you're not with a nation that is organized, that is recognized by their community, whether that's federal recognition, state recognition, or just everyone knows y'all are the Indians around here, you don't got no other rights, plain and simple, no matter what you call yourself. Get active in your community. You shouldn't need another name to be active in your community to do something positive. Whether you're Black American, African American, copper-colored Aborigine, what are you doing for you and your people? What are you doing? And if you're not doing nothing but you're sitting on social media whining and complaining about what the white man did to you, you're of no use to anyone. Absolute, especially not your family and your tribe. That's not how warriors conduct themselves. I don't know a warrior that I respect that sits around and complains what Europeans are doing to them. They might complain how Europeans keep getting in the way of what we're doing, but I don't know one warrior that I respect that all they do is sit around on the internet complaining about what Europeans are doing to them. I don't know any like that.
So let me say something too, because this is something I just want to address real quick. Many of the new Black Indians claim their ancestors were in the Americas from the time of Pangea. All right, so I'm going to show you how nonsensical this stuff is. All right, out of Africa is a theory, right? Pangea is a theory created by the same Europeans that created the out of Africa theory. So how do so-called people reject one theory but adopt
another
the other?
one?
Why? Because the one theory supports what they want to believe and the other doesn't, but they're coming from the same institutions. All right, now let me talk about Pangea. Pangea, the theory, occurred 300 million years ago. Okay, so in case people don't realize, we are what is called Homo sapiens sapien, right? That's modern man. All humans that live today are Homo sapiens sapien. So there are bones that they found all over the world, right? Not all those bones are Homo sapiens sapien. Lucy, that everybody wants to claim, it's not Homo sapiens sapien. That's not your ancestor. That's a different human. It's an earlier version of the human species, of which you are not. And it's not that one evolved to the next. No, some of them were living at the same time, next to each other.
And then some of them with each other.
Yeah, and did some of them intermix? Yes. That's why anybody outside of sub-Saharan Africa has 2 to 4% of Neanderthal genetics and DNA in them. Everybody, right? So when we talk about certain theories, when we talk about ancient times, people like to say, oh, the African. I have graduated to the point where I am speaking about the Homo sapiens sapien. The migrations I talk about are not migrations of Africans. They're migrations of different groups of Homo sapiens sapiens that took place at different times, right? Homo sapiens sapiens did not exist at the time when Pangea was supposed to have happened. So to try to say that we are the same people who might have populated the planet 300 million years ago, when the same science that gave you the concept of Pangea says that we're not, that modern man has only been around for a certain period of time, you can't marry the two together, and then your back door cannot be, well, they're lying.
But because let's just play complete fool and entertain, right? That there was somehow some connection between the modern human and those people in Pangea, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to claim to be connected to people from hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Millions.
If we ask them where their ancestors were, if we ask them where their ancestors were 300 years ago, they're going to get mad at us and tell us so you're going to tell me you connected to people millions of years ago, but you can't tell me who your people were a couple hundred years ago?
Which is the premise of what I'm telling you they're trying to do, bro. They want to remove anything that is like, okay, you want to prove that you're this is what we need. We need your driver's license, we need your social security card, and we need a picture of you, right? These motherfuckers is like, nah, they robbed us of everything, so I can't possibly, and I'm not going to try to get these items that you need. I'm just going to tell you, my grandmother said it, and science says that motherfuckers was here 300,000 years ago, so I must be that person. No, why don't you just go ahead and get the shit you need? When I go to when I go to get whatever IDs I need, I remember I had to get my ID. Man, I ran around here for years without no ID. Okay, I want to participate in society now. I'm back. All that dumb shit I was on, I'm back. I'm trying to get my ID just so I can start participating. They're like, well, you need this, you need that. Oh, damn, now I got to go run all the way to Jersey to get my birth certificate. Damn, I got to run all the way here. I got to get all these things together so now I can go in there and present to these people who I am so they can give me a legal ID. Well, guess what? If you're making these claims that you're the indigenous people and you're this and you're that, you need to get all these things in order so when you make your claim, you can prove it.
Thank you.
Simple as that. And you can't go in there proving it by saying they lied.
Well, my grandmother told me, and I ain't got to
my
tell you
grandmother
nothing.
told me.
Cracker done took everything from us. Like, no one wants to hear that.
And guess what? That's not something that the European created. That's something that has always existed amongst humanity. You got to show and prove for what you say. Just like I said earlier, if a child came up to an old woman and said, yeah, I'm your great-great-grandchild. Oh, you a Jackson?
Thank you.
Yeah, I need some of that Jackson money. Right? I'm a Jackson. Technically, my grandfather is a Jackson, but I'm not related to Michael. So I can't go to Catherine and be like, yeah, look, I'm a Jackson. Let me get some of that paper.
Yeah,
She's going to say, what Jackson line are you?
Thank you.
And you have to show me that you're a part of these Jacksons.
Cut me in. But let's go where they go with it. Yeah. Well, you a Jackson, I'm a Jackson too. And you know, the original Aboriginal was copper colored. And look at us. So, you know, since we Jacksons and we both Aborigines, you're gonna have to cut me in. Come on, man.
Ain't nobody going for that.
Man.
Now, if you can show up and say, oh, I'm Tito's child that ain't nobody tell nobody about. But Tito knows, and Tito, my mom is such and such. Tito, and then they go ahead and get the DNA done. And it's like, oh yeah, Tito, this your kid. Guess what? Now you're entitled to that.
Now you're entitled to something. Yeah. But with your family. And with your blood family.
And you can't say
community you made up.
And you can't say, well, Tito was famous and he was rich and they got a lot of girls. So what makes you think my mom ain't sweet with him? He was famous and had a lot of girls. That's circular reasoning. That's not real.
Well, my mother was in the same city he was for a few years.
Yeah.
So clearly we must be the original Jacksons too. Look at our copper-colored skin.
Yeah.
We was breakdancing. Like, come on, man. Like,
this is the type of reasoning that people are using, and they'll jump from one form to another. That's why I wanted to address the whole Pangea shit. Motherfuckers would be like, no, they want to take away slave ships, right? Which is only accounting for the most recent migration of so-called Africans here. But none of these people know about the migrations that have not only been
thousands of years
have been recorded historically by the tribes. And I'm not saying that every tribe has migration stories, because guess what? Every tribe didn't emerge as an independent nation at the same time.
Thank you.
Right? Some tribes actually come out of other tribes.
Thank you.
And the history that they speaks of when they separated and became their own specific people. This is why we all have different names and slightly different
we became
dialects.
Narragansett. We were, my understanding, and once again, this is not what I read from books. This is from talking with chiefs and elders that are around. All of the nations up here, originally Massachusetts, moved to different areas, start calling themselves by the names of the areas where they're at. It's actually Nanhiganuk. Narragansett is the English corruption. We don't have any R's. Nanhiganuk means people of the small riverways and estuaries. Why? Because we live near the small riverways and estuaries. Nipmuc means people of the fresh water. Why? Because they were the ones living over near the fresh water. Massachusetts means people of the blue hills. Why? Because they live near those hills that look blue. So your title for your tribe was identifying where your people were from. So that's why I bring it back. Where's Aboriginal from? What land area was called Aboriginal before Europeans got here? None.
And they'll say the language. They'll say the language ain't real, but we still got lakes, rivers, streams, towns, everything named after in our languages.
Because Mashapog Pond, because my people lived at a pond called Mashapog Pond that the city of Providence and state of Rhode Island today still call Mashapog Pond.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my people were at that pond, which is about half a mile away from me right now. So our language is still tied to the actual land places around us, because the Europeans didn't change all of the names, but he's going to tell me our language is dead. And then once again,
No, he said it wasn't even real.
I mean, it's outrageous. So what are they calling this? And then Angel, Tecumseh's not my sachem. I'm not Shawnee. That's not my sachem. What do you mean one of our great, who's our? Turtle has his own sachems that were around at the same time Tecumseh was. So why would we be paying, and it's all respect to the chief Tecumseh, because I don't even know if they called themselves sachems out there. But why would I be deferring to Tecumseh when I have Canonicus, Canonchet, my Antinomy, Pumham? Like, Tecumseh's not my sachem. He's a Shawnee. They might be Algonquian. So there's a relation, but that's not my chief. And it's not your chief unless you're a Shawnee. You have no right to claim anyone as your chief unless you're from their tribe. There's no generic our chiefs. I see a lot of Chief Cisco getting passed around. He's a Nipmuc chief. I know his family. That's not my chief. So you don't see me throwing his picture around saying my chief. If you're not related to people or from their tribe, that's not your chief in your tribe. So we have to get away from this generic nonsense. As Mr. Ali Bey said, who were your fathers and grandfathers? Who were your grandmothers and grandmothers? What were your people doing? Where were they at when Europeans got here? Don't tell me about 50,000 years ago. How is that changing anything today? Where were your people when European impact hit? And if they weren't from here, what's the matter with that? Why not go and honor where they're from and what they went through and learn who you are? Because then, if you know who you are, whether you're from these lands or not, you and I can have a conversation and share with each other and learn from each other, because that's what cultural exchange is all about. That's how nations learn things. They come from over here, from West Africa. They see that we're dealing with a certain plant over here. This plant it tastes great. They think they could grow it back over there. They take some of it back over there. While they were here, they put us on to they're doing something over there that we're not doing here. Now we start doing that here. There's the exchange. We're still the same people we were. We're still separate, but we've had an exchange and there's a relationship now. Now we can build. But we don't all need to be the same people in order for us to engage with each other. That is a completely American mindset. And think about why they did that. They're running from their past over in Europe, and they're trying to keep things from the Indians here. So they got to create something completely new for themselves in order to keep the charade up. And what is everyone doing now? The American thing. Let me make up my own identity. Let me co-opt history and adapt it to what's beneficial for me. Let me get aggressive and want to be violent with people who don't agree with that. And then at the end of the day, let me say I'm making my own nation with our own laws that don't have to listen to anyone that was here before us.
Yeah.
How is that not American?
Now check this out. So Jeremiah Myers says they burned a lot of our records. The records that were burnt were all written in English. So how are they our records? We didn't keep our records in that way, right? There's ways that we communicated amongst each other, amongst tribes. You know what I mean? That was not a written language. There's ways that we recorded our history. Like I said, our history exists within our languages. And the fact that, as Tuwalk explained earlier, the name, your tribal name is really a location. And within that speaks to a whole history, how you got there, certain things. So knowing the language itself is about retaining your history as well, right? So when you say they burnt down the records, like I said, all these books they burnt were written in English.
Thank you.
They were not your, they're not your
English
records. They were their records that they didn't want their people even to access anymore.
Thank you.
Like, they burnt down our
all.
libraries. What libraries were yours?
Thank you.
Like,
You
think about that.
Was indigenous more still trolling, bro.
That's all right.
But listen, look how outrageous the behavior is when people won't just humble themselves and be like, you're right and I was wrong. Making up fake accounts to come back to push more of the same rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
How's that not outrageous to everyone?
Bro, I called into some other show the other day, and they asked me about the slave ships, and I told them they're not slave ships, they're just cargo ships, and there's a plethora of museums in Europe. You can go on you could probably spend a year visiting all the museums in Europe that have these same old cargo ships, right? And dude gonna say to me, that makes no sense at all. So what you think makes sense is them to build a slave ship museum? Now just think, if they're really trying to push us into a narrative, right, and keep all these things over our head, you don't think the United States would have shipped all them slave ships over here and built a goddamn museum in DC right next to the African American, right next to the Native American, and they just said, here are all the slave ships that all y'all came in. No, you go to the African American Museum, they got one piece of wood with a chain hooked up to it. That's from what they say these slave ships. You know why it's from these? They say it's from these slave ships. Because none of these slave ships were United States owned ships. They were all foreign vessels that were engaging in trade.
Now let me add some just legal context because I took admiralty law. Those ships are property of the nation where they're from.
Exactly.
So even if something did happen to them, the U.S. would have to give them back to the country that they belong to. But once again, cuz Brown University, just go do the research. They have a Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice. They were the Brown brothers were the number one. Well, it's actually another group that was here, but another family. But the Brown brothers were one of the top slavers in Euro-colonial history. The Brown brothers for Brown University right in Providence. So all of that nonsense is just nonsense. It's not factual. There is a school here in the city where I live that has a Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice because they were forced to acknowledge their very ugly history with slavery. And then we did our Indian slavery. Remember that Indian slavery video that everyone watched, and it's got like that now people are attacking me 7 years later because after I put that info out to them and everyone went and ate on it and got their knowledge up, now they're attacking me, telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. That was with the Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice at Brown.
So this is what we're talking about, Hawks. The whole time is, listen, when a cub gets to a certain point, he challenges the father. He challenges the lion, the you know what I'm saying? When we look at the animal kingdom, the lions in general, right? Particular, the male cub has to leave the territory because he's naturally going to challenge, right? The leader of the group. He's naturally going to challenge them. So when you come into territories, those female lions that are in that territory, that lion been there for thousands of years. The females are connected to the land. They stay. The males, when they get a certain age, they have to go out and find their own.
There you go.
So what's happening now, right, is the people who sat at the feet and benefited from not just yourself and myself. It's a bunch of people who were there in the beginning of this push, who were doing real things that caught the attention of people who weren't even thinking that way. Those people now have gotten to a point where they have their own following, and God forbid I'm going to bring my people around you, and then I lose all my people.
There you go.
Because I'm not really here to elevate the people. I'm here to elevate myself.
What can I get off these people?
Yes. So of course they're not gonna expose their people to you. You like, because then what? The people don't need them no more. You understand? And that's what this is all about. So now the people who would feel like they've gotten to a point to where they can really, I don't know how they think they're gonna do something when they don't even have any connections to any real things moving, but they feel like they can create these programs and have these events, and only thing that's going to come out of it is some vending and some more confusion.
Going to jail for mismanaging some money.
Yeah, that's it. So it's like motherfuckers got to remove the clean glass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They got to remove the clean glass because they not going to clean their dirty water up.
Yep.
Because everything that they sell to the people, like they selling the people Kool-Aid. They got the extra mix in it. They got the extra sugar in it to get you addicted to it. So you keep coming back for more of that taste. But that taste ain't good for you. And they're not going to tell you got to drink this good water because that good water is really what's benefiting you. You know what I mean? So, like, at the end of the day, people just going to have to get tired of ingesting this food that ain't good for them. You know what I'm saying? They're going to have to get tired of it. And hopefully it's coming to the point where they are, where their consciousness has been raised. Like the brother says, I'm just here to make you think. Yeah, you make them think, but you make me think you don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
That's what you make me think.
And listen, but see the game? Because he ain't tell you what he's making you think. So he ain't lied to you, but he ain't told you nothing either. And you right, you're just here to make us think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's making you think about the wrong things. And Angel, I still ain't heard you share no nation. There's no nation called Aboriginal American. So now I don't believe you're an actual Indian. Because if you were an Indian, you wouldn't have a problem sharing your nation. What is the pushback in the Aboriginal community of identifying with your actual nation? What is the pushback? I don't understand it. Actually, I do. What we just shared. Because if you have to identify with your nation, that means you're not the Aboriginal American matriarch. That means you got to check in with someone. That means you have to abide by certain rules, so you can't freestyle what you want, like telling people they can individually go and enforce Aboriginal title. So thank you. I see your spirit. The more you interact, the more clearly I see your spirit. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why they're forming these internet nations, bro. Because they think they're going to strong arm people just based on numbers. But them numbers don't mean nothing. Like, listen, I tell people a lot. Like, people talk about album sales now. I'm like, an album sale is very different now when all you got to do is download something. 20 years ago, you had to literally go to the record store and buy that physical album. It took more effort, right? So a record, somebody going platinum 20 years ago is a lot different than somebody going platinum now.
Absolutely.
Trust me. Like,
absolutely. And we come from that era because I remember, like, you had to sneak to the store because my grandmother didn't want the music. So it wasn't just
on top of that.
And I hit the dot. I gotta go sneak to the store, and then I gotta, because I don't got my own laptop to play stuff on. Maybe, hopefully, I got a cassette player, right? But then how am I gonna get the music? So absolutely, because there was much more of an investment in it, so it was worth more back then.
We on our big U shit. Ain't no getting around checking in. At this point, you say you indigenous, you Aboriginal,
you gotta check in.
Check in.
That's the way it goes. If you know, and let's go back traditionally. Come up in someone's territory and don't check in before you get up in there.
And just because you're doing a lecture, don't make you a part of no real community, no indigenous community.
That's why I said earlier.
It don't mean you assembling as a nation.
From getting what they don't want, because you're not only gonna not get what you do want, you might get what you don't want. And I'm just gonna leave it there.
I'm not saying check in with me. If you go, you need to be checking in with the chief.
Nation whose land you're in.
Who, whatever territory you have, if you want to do an event there, and it's not saying asking permission, but it's like, yo, why wouldn't you, like, if you're going to do an event, and if you're doing an event in a territory where you know you got Shinnecock, you know what I mean? You got the Montauk out here. Why wouldn't you want some of them there if you authentic, if you real? But you don't want them there because you know you're not real and you're trying to misrepresent a culture. So you're not going to check in with them.
Thank you.
Simple as that. You're going to sneak in.
Thank you. Because if you really was trying to be real, you'd want the real around you. And you'd want to make sure that what you're doing is in line with what's real. You wouldn't be running from it. So, and then I'm like, what are y'all gonna do with first and foremost, what kind of powwow are y'all gonna hold? Is it gonna be a traditional Eastern Woodlands powwow? Is it gonna be Southeastern? Is it gonna be Northern Plains style? You know what I'm saying? Like, which songs are y'all gonna sing? Who's the drum groups? You know what I'm saying? Like, who's the dancer? Like,
they can't tell you that, but they can tell you what it's gonna cost to get up in there.
Thank you. See, about the money. And then when you get there, it's gonna look like the swap meet.
It's gonna look like
feathers.
It's gonna look like an African festival.
Thank you. But we indigenous, we aboriginal to these lands. It's man, like it's and I'm gonna say this because us, especially being, and I'm just gonna speak on behalf of the Northeastern tribes. I'm not gonna say it doesn't apply to our Southeastern family either. But I'm gonna say Northeastern tribe, that behavior causes us problems because now we gotta hear from Indians out west about you all. And now I gotta be to them like they're not in my tribe. I don't speak on behalf of, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't come at me sideways because of some stupidity someone else said. So we gotta check them. We gotta deal with you all. We gotta deal with the Pan-Africans. Mr. Ali Day, I call them fake Moors because I've met some real genuine Moors. Shout out to the brother Joel Aldwin up here in Providence. Solid Moor. You know what I'm saying? Solid Moor. I call them fake Moors. We got to fight with the fake Moors. We as Northeastern Indians, simply because of how we look, got to fight all these people. And I'm saying, why I got to fight with the Aboriginal community too? Yeah. Y'all supposed to be on the vibe we are. You supposed to be trying to get where we're at. Why are we fighting with you?
Chiefs, like, bro, and it's the thing. Like, motherfuckers have changed names, changed clothes, posed, did everything. Like, y'all need to stop. Like, your journey, like, there's nothing wrong with learning new things, right? And you know, re-edifying yourself. But you don't got to rewrite your story, right? Be honest with everybody and, like, you know, each one teach one, but, like, humble yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I'm an Indian. I got on a hoodie and like a cheap flight jacket, and I'm super Narragansett, just as much as if I got all my feathers and all that on. And that's even an immature way of looking at things because I was there once. I need to wear these things so that people know. But really what I realize is that's because I'm not confident in who I am. That's why I need everyone's, you know, acknowledgement and acceptance of me and to see that I'm really who I say I am because I'm not confident in who I am. And once I realized that, I had to start checking that. Now,
now the thing is, everybody wants us to agree with them because they see the confidence and the conviction that we carry ourselves with. So as we represent our tribes, our culture, and our history, right? So the thing is, like, I don't got to dumb my down. Yeah, that don't make us bougie. And I don't need to dumb my shit down or take a step back to uplift you. Like, I have a thing I say, you know, I live life in first place, bro. And when I'm in first place, I'm not looking back. That's just going to slow me down. Now, don't mean that the person behind you ain't measuring you and ain't trying to pass you. I'm not saying don't pass me. I'm just saying I'm in first place in my life and I'm not looking back. Like, and the truth of the matter is we're not even competing for the same thing. Like, you could be in the what was it, the Indy 500, right? You could see two cars neck and neck, look like they racing, but the car on the left is on lap 480. The car on the right is on lap 390. But it looked like they right next to each other racing. But no, we laps ahead of you. Yeah. Stop playing. Like you're not even really in the same race. It just appears like you are.
It's like going on the ball court. It's like reading about basketball and then deciding you're ready to step on the court and play. You know what I'm saying? And you watched and you seen that Michael Jordan had the full Chicago outfit on, and you seen he had the Chicago sneakers on. So you went to the store and brought everything fresh and you showed up to the court. And what happened when you showed up to the court? Everyone looked at you like a clown because they're like, damn, he just bought all that, which means he probably ain't been balling. Okay. Then they start to watch you and see how you ball, and they're like, this man's a clown. Then when they ask you where you learned to ball at, who instructed you? Well, no, I read it. You know what I'm saying? I studied with.
Yeah.
And you mad because no one's picking you on their team.
On it. But you the dude who come to the gym with the big duffel bag, the change of sneakers, the whole uniform, and people like, oh, but you're horrible. You can't ball a lick. Meanwhile, I'm gonna come there looking like I can't ball a lick. And when we throw that ball up, it's a wrap. Buckets. But listen, so
what does Yamama mean? What language is that? What language is that? And let me just do this. I'm just gonna be a bit of a troublemaker because she pissed me off. Okay. Who's that Lyran Cypress so-called chief from out of Virginia?
Yeah.
Let me just reverse that. She's not a chief. Let me put that on the record. Angel, you said you're glad this is being recorded. Record me right now. She's not a chief. And I'm going to tell you why she's not a chief. Because she just posted the other day on my company page, mind you, whining and complaining about Chief First Beer. Oh, you're supposed to be a chief, but you didn't include all of the full-blood Indians from Virginia. So a chief of another nation whining and complaining to chiefs of other nations that they ain't include her. A chief whining to other chiefs that they didn't include her, and then went to full blood and gonna make a comment about his blood quantum. So completely American. And here's my thing. Clearly the problem is, and why you're whining to other chiefs is, you don't have the capacity to organize your people for them to be able to move in a capacity like we're moving. And you clearly don't have the ability to present yourselves to other chiefs in a manner where they want to work with you, chief to chief. So she's not a chief. Tell her Two Hawks said it. It's not anyone else but Two Hawks saying it. She ain't no chief. The real chief of the Aquamax, the real chief that knows how to be respectful and knows how to let go of American mindsets and not disrespect other chiefs based upon phenotype and color while you're complaining that that's what happened to you. Aquamac family, send the real chief and we can have some conversations. Don't send her anymore. We don't want to hear from her.
Yeah, let's set the record straight, yo. Holding lectures won't ever equate to actual governance within a standard nation.
White people do that. Europeans do that. How are you any different?
Yeah, it's never going to equate to that. You know what I mean? And our people, like self-appointed titles, 3 years ago, you was this, now you a chief.
That ain't how it goes.
It's far from how it goes. You know what I'm saying?
I think I shared before, I got told that I should consider being war chief. This is when me and my people was with the Northern tribe. And this is how you talk about the separations and the fear. I was originally war chief for the Northern Narragansett tribe. The woman who named me was the one who told me I should consider it. And I told her, no, I don't know nothing about being nobody's war chief. I'm just here to learn about my culture. But she knew me. She knew my grandmother. So when it came time, she made me. She's the one who suggested my name to the council. I wasn't trying to be no chief. The people said, you're the war chief. Then me and the big chief got getting into it. So he told me I had to go. So I went. My family came with me. Other families that were having similar issues with the chief over there said, we're coming with you. Then when we organized, they said, you should be the spokesman for all the families. So never in anything that I did did I say, I'm the chief and you got to follow me. It was other people who knew me, watching me, saying, you should be that. We think that that's what you should be.
So Godbody said, I talked to that, this is on my Instagram, said I talked to that Accomack chief last month. I was surprised because she was Cherokee a couple of years ago.
See what I'm saying? So I can already tell from her spirit how she was engaging. She ain't no chief. And let's X all that because I know they're going to go there. Oh, it's because she's a woman. Dancing Star is the chief of the Pokanoket. The Sagamore is the Sagamore of the Pokanoket Nation. Dancing Star, his daughter, is the chief of the tribe. Lone Eagle was the Red Chief of Fauna and is the Red Chief. I think she's principal chief now of Oni Salaji. So this has nothing to do with gender either. This is about being a chief. And it shouldn't matter what your gender is. If you're a chief, there's a certain way you carry yourself that others can see it. Like you said, Turtle, Chief Man's only got you by 3 years. Don't matter. Who's the nation down in the Caribbean? They appointed their chief last year. He was like 20. Don't matter because they're seeing his spirit and how he carries himself, and everyone knows that's the chief. She ain't no chief, brother, and thank you for giving me that background because the next time she reaches out, I'm definitely going to let her know I know that. You was a Cherokee, now you're an Accomack.
Bro, these people ain't chiefs. They're not genealogists. They're not lecturers. They're people who have an interest in discovering their true identity, and they need to be more patient and humble until they figure things out. And then as they do, they need to walk in the light of transparency. You know what I'm saying? Which is something that we tried to do as a people. Like Turtle Gang, our whole thing was set up on being transparent. Okay, we're going to tell you about the people, but we're going to take you to the people and let them speak for themselves. And we're going to get the hell out the way. I'm just going to hold this camera so you can speak directly to the people. And that's what we did.
But that's the only way to engage with another group of people. You don't engage. If you're going to go back traditional, what are you doing reading books and researching on the internet? There were no books and there was no internet. So if you want to know about those folks, you got to go see them. And you better go and see them correctly. Because you might get there with no resources and supplies. And then if they don't like you, then what? If they don't like you, then what? Because you're completely at their mercy at that point. So see, we ain't even thinking logically. And Angel, I'm gonna pull back my I'm gonna put the other hawk away for a second. All right, sis. I fully respect that. That's what your mama told you, but you have to move past that generic title. Aboriginal people of what land? What specific lands? Where you taught? Where did your people come from? Because Nahegantits are Aboriginal, but we're not Aboriginal to Texas. We're not Aboriginal to Minnesota. We're Aboriginal to what they call Rhode Island. So in these lands, we're Aboriginal. In other lands, I'm a foreigner there because there's another nation whose lands those are. I can't claim them, and I most certainly can't claim them based in a European title. So once again, we're going to repeat. If your only frame or basis for engaging is through a European source, then you're not in any position to be a leader because you're missing an entire aspect of what it means to be an Indian, and the more important one, because I can be an Indian and have my culture without knowing any of that happened. My son doesn't know that his ancestors got misclassified, but he knows how to pick up that drumstick and sing this song, and he knows how to dance in the circle when he sees his dad. And if he never finds out that we got misclassified, he'll still be just as Narragansett as he is right now.
You don't want him to know. That's
thank you. I don't even want him to. I want him to fully embrace being Narragansett. Like all he ever knew was being a Narragansett. You're right, cuz. For the people on the flip side, you can study all you want. But if you don't ever get into this culture, you ain't ever gonna be fulfilled. And the only way to get into the culture, because I loved it, be patient and be humble. That's the only way in. There's no other way into any traditional culture but patience and humility. That's it.
Yep. And let me tell you, if you don't know the language, stop trying to sell the language.
Thank you.
Like,
Get rid of that
call
Niji
names
nonsense.
out. That's not what we're here to do.
Don't call no one in the Northeast a Niji. Don't call, if you don't speak Algonquin, if don't call no one who don't speak Algonquin a Niji. So don't be calling no Tuscaroras or Iroquois Nijis. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is where you start sounding really stupid. You sound stupid at this point. It's like walking up to a Spanish person and saying bonjour. And then they're like, what? Well, ain't you European? You don't speak European? What you mean? Bonjour. That, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's outrageous.
Bro, you know we could do this all night.
Absolutely.
But we got to cut it short at some point. We definitely, yeah. You heard the PSAs. This is TurtleGang.NYC. Brother Two Hawks over here. You know what I mean? They got our names in their mouths.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this. We're going to revisit this. You know, nothing too heavy, but yeah, they got our names in their mouth, and they really have no reason to other than, you know, I hate to, you know, talk about people being jealous, because it's not really to be jealous. Just gotta be patient, and you'll get to the point you want to be at in your journey. Simple as that. And you're not gonna get there any faster by pulling other people down who've been on this journey longer than you. Like, really, you should be trying to take notes from this brother that came on the show with me tonight, my brother Two Hawks. Y'all should be taking notes from him. This my younger brother, but he my big bro. He my chief. He my big chief. I respect him tremendously. You know what I mean? He did things that I only, you know, aspire to do in the future. He's done them, but he's my blueprint, and I love him for that, because I don't got to figure it out. I don't got to figure it out because Two Hawks figured it out. What is a matter? Like, what is the problem with our people? There's people out here who are figuring it out for you. Yeah, that's the real issue. They probably not our people. You know what I'm saying?
That's where I'm at. I mean, we've been doing this. I know I've been actively involved on a social media platform for 5 years. If you ain't found your people in 5 years, you're probably not from here, and that's okay.
Oh yeah, that food. And this the thing. 5 years, you haven't found your people? No. If you making enough noise, your people will find you.
Thank you.
Woo.
Thank you. There's been a few people, I'm gonna let you go, cuz there's been a few people already. I bumped into them in different circles, like, well, if you're Narragansett, why you ain't reached out then? Why we ain't heard from you? During that honor situation, had the brother hit me up a couple weeks ago, like, yo, I don't know if you remember. I said, absolutely, I remember you. Cuz what's up? I've been waiting for you to. So yes, if you actually are your people and you make enough noise, your people will come find you.
Yep.
Don't make up new stuff.
Yep.
Cuz Katapatush, it's always appreciate the opportunity to always be on your platform.
New shit, brother. And on that note,
I hope the words that I shared today, and I once again thank the brother here for just the opportunity. I hope you take them, as we say, in a good way. This wasn't meant to tear anyone down, but look, if the brother and I here are in an advanced space to where you're trying to get to, then if you're being traditional, you follow in our footsteps and you see how you can move how we moved, and then what you can add to move things forward. Because I guarantee you, even though I did some cool things, I had people that were putting me onto things, and based upon what they were doing, I was able to so there's always this give and take. And if you're taking something from me, you better believe if you get to the point where you know as much as I do, I'm gonna be looking to see what I can take from you, because I don't want to be the one that has to figure it all out. If I got this far, okay, cool. Who got the next piece? Because I'm trying to follow someone now. I don't like being the leader all the time. Let me follow someone. And that's why I appreciate you, Turtle, because I could come on your platform and share. I can go on your
Absolutely.
videos and point out. You know what I'm saying? It's always a give and take. So, brother, Kataputin as always, man, and Peach Kanash, we definitely got to do this again soon, brother.
Absolutely, I got to push, bro. Yo, I love you. I love your people. Your people, my people. You know, we connected. We go way back. You know what I'm saying? People want us to point things out. Want me to, two Hawks. Nah, that's my brother. You know what I mean? We on point. Like,
don't
listen,
hit us up about each other. Don't.
This man knew my elders before he knew me. You understand? Like,
don't internet Indian it.
Yeah, it's not no internet shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we utilize this as a tool to share, but this ain't the foundation of our relationship. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what it is. The foundation was laid before I even knew this man existed, because it was laid nation to nation. And when y'all understand that and can really get into it and value that, you're gonna be that much closer to understanding who you are.
Thank you.
That's what's important.
Thank you. And getting what you want out of this. And believe you me, if you are from one of these original nations, Turtle and I want you to have that experience. We want you to, which is why we're giving you tough love. And that's how you know if someone cares about you, if they love you enough to tell you you're messing up, right? If they love you enough to tell you, nah, that's not it. Pay attention to the people that are taking your money and sending you down the wrong path. And there's a few of them out there. Once again, I'll be the troublemaker. I'll give respect to the information he has put out there, but Mr. Calloway knows that all of everything he's saying ain't correct. And what he needs to do is humble himself and say, you know what? I'm a researcher, but even researchers don't know it all. I was misinformed about a few things. I came to some more understandings. Let me put this correct information out there to you all, because I've got this tremendous platform and I want y'all to know the truth. I'm not just here to make you think. I'm here to make you think about the truth. And think about that. He's here to make you think. Think about what? I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of Cherokee chiefs. If he's Cherokee, there's a lot of Cherokee chiefs he could have uplifted.
Is he Cherokee? I ain't heard. No, he said he was from some chief, and then I ain't heard nothing about it after that. And I ain't seen him at nothing. Let me put something out there that's gonna blow everyone's mind. And I'm gonna put it out there. I'm not saying it's confirmed. I'm just saying this is the word we got. He's Hemok's son. That's just the word. I ain't confirmed it, so I can't say for certain. But Aboriginal community out there, look into that. If you're looking to dig into something, if you want to get at someone, look into that, please.
So look, so in closing, and